Hi, I'm Chef Whitney Aronoff, and welcome to the Starseed Kitchen Podcast. I'm really excited today to talk to you guys all about non-toxic cookware. And today my guest is Erik Bergstrom. Erik is the digital media manager for Xtrema Cookware. Let me tell you a little bit about Xtrema Cookware and what we're going to be talking about today. So when it comes to cooking whole, nutritious meals, you know that every ingredient counts. You read labels, you shop the perimeter, you buy organic, you think about everything you put into a recipe. But have you ever considered what you're cooking in and how that affects your food? Most home cooks know that Teflon-coated nonstick cookware can add dangerous chemicals to your food as you cook. But even newer ceramic-coated cookware, which is often advertised as green cookware, contains synthetic bonding materials and chemicals like PFOA, which have been shown to cause cancer and other serious health problems. Remove the coating, and most metal cookware poses similar risks. Aluminum, copper, stainless steel, and cast iron cookware will leach heavy metals and toxic chemicals into your foods at high temperatures over time, changing the flavor and the health profile of your favorite foods. You can't necessarily taste these heavy metals when this is happening, but over time, your body will show the heavy metal toxicity. Xtrema ceramic cookware is different. It's made from 100% pure ceramic, is all natural, non-toxic, inorganic, and most importantly, non-reactive. From the glaze to the core, it contains no PFOA, PTFE, glues, polymers, coatings, or dyes. Most importantly, Xtrema cookware will never leach chemicals, metal, cadmium, lead, or change the taste of your food. So, Erik, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. For everyone that's listening, I got introduced to Xtrema ceramic cookware two different ways. First was right out of culinary school, and that was through Rebecca Wood. Rebecca Wood has a book called The New Whole Foods Encyclopedia. It was required reading when I was in culinary school, and I've been following her blog and her newsletter ever since. And she was the first person to talk to me about non-toxic cookware. And then my personal chef clients actually had a full lineup of Xtrema cookware in their home when I started cooking with them. So that was my only option in order to prepare their food. So I got an immediate introduction on how to cook with it and the importance of it. And so my goal in having you on today is just to let people know about this option of cooking, that you have to dig a little bit deeper to find non-reactive cookware. And, you know, if people are spending really good money on buying more quality ingredients, they really need to start considering what they're putting their food on and cooking their food with.
Absolutely. I didn't know that detail. That is so cool that you sort of were put in a situation where you had to actually learn how to use it. And
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I get to work every Tuesday with Xtrema cookware, all different pot sizes and skillet sizes. And most of the recipes that you see on my website on Starseed Kitchen, I can prepare those with Xtrema cookware, completely non-toxic. It's really great. My clients are happy. They've gotten more and more healthy as I've started working for them, which is obviously why they keep me around. And then the great thing for me is I've been introduced to new cookware that I've been able to incorporate into my life as, you know, I continue to find tweaks that need to be made in order to feel better and live a little lighter.
Absolutely. That's so awesome to hear that it's been a part of somebody's health journey that you're impacting as well. I think that's when you talk about the goals of our company, you know, mission, vision, and values, that's definitely one of the main things. We see ourselves as more than just cookware. We see ourselves factoring into, you know, a lot of people's health journeys as sort of like addition by subtraction. You know, we're not cooking the healthy food. We're not teaching some of the things that you are and developing, some of the meals and recipes, but we're not adding any other toxicants or things that could harm health in that journey, which is also important, is just reducing exposure in general. So that's really cool, encouraging to hear that.
Yeah, so I consider healthy food or just real whole foods kind of the gateway drug into a whole lifestyle change. So you start with buying better quality ingredients. You start by figuring out, okay, where does my chicken actually come from? What is, the base of my ground beef? Where's my cilantro coming from? I need to know a little bit more about this broccoli. I want to make sure it wasn't sprayed with anything, inorganic. And as you start to go down that line, I think you naturally start to fall in, okay, what's happening when I'm preparing my food? What's happening when I'm storing my food? It kind of all, at some point you're going to start riding the wave and you can't get off, and you just want to keep consuming information that's going to make you feel better and improve your life and get rid of the things that no longer serve you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's, it's an amazing thing, but it can also be overwhelming. And so
Yeah.
I think, being able to connect with people that are doing it and that are also able to, kind of walk alongside you is so important, because I think it can seem daunting at first. Like, why didn't anybody tell me this about
Yes.
my food or about these products that I'm using in my house? And it can feel like I need to change all of this right away. But I think that's what's so great about sort of the modern social media age, is you're able to actually kind of bring in people into your life and show them, hey, it takes time and that's okay. And take it one step at a time, like I have, and kind of give them a roadmap in order to do that. That's less daunting than having to try to do the research yourself and figure it out. And,
Yeah.
think that it's going to take a lot of money or a lot of time. And so I think that's part of the equation for us as well, is just letting people know that, it's, they don't have to be panicked, if they find out our cookware or they find out they're using cookware that's not the best for them, that it's a long process of relearning and re-understanding about these products and about foods and things like that.
Yeah. And you just replace one piece of equipment at a time.
Absolutely.
You get a new piece of equipment, you get comfortable with it, you get in your flow, and then you start with the next one. There's no rush. No one's going to get a gold star, if
Right.
they make changes faster than anybody else. You just go at your own pace, and that's going to continue to fluctuate as you continue to figure out the new things that you're into learning. But it's all fun, and at least we know now, right?
Right. And there's a lot of free things that you can do, addition by subtraction, just even removing some things and not even adding something back in. When you talk about indoor air quality or water quality, these are all things that you're talking about, that you're using every single day. Not things that are sort of, minor indulgences or once in a blue moon, things that are outside of your control. Going out to eat, knowing what products are they using when I go out to eat.
Yeah.
You're talking about things that you're doing every single day: drinking water, eating food, using cleaning products, using, cookware. These are some of the things that, even just to start, you can actually really have huge impact in changing. And some of these changes at first can actually be the cheapest. When you talk about just doing something as simple as opening more windows, or just getting a basic water filter instead of like a really expensive one, those minor changes, even as small as they are, can just eliminate so many toxicants and potential for, furthering some health conditions or, autoimmune issues down the road. So.
Absolutely. And I think cookware is a big part in, I think, some of the autoimmune issues that I think will continue to kind of appear in our lives. A lot of people need to see studies before they believe. Other people can see it happening as they're cooking or preparing their foods or working in their kitchen or improving their life. So I think we'll hear more about how our cookware is affecting our health and our immune systems, I think, in the near future.
Absolutely. And science, it takes time. Unfortunately, how science works is that with modern innovation, typically the innovation comes before the health and wellness studies. And so a lot of companies that are, the bigger they get and the more market share that they have, the more that outside influences can control decisions and products and things that are studied. And a lot of times innovation comes before the actual studying of those materials and things. And we've seen that, lag 20 to 30 years behind when you're talking about things like PTFE, PFOA, that these were implemented widely and then later found out that they probably shouldn't have been. And now that we've studied them, there's obviously new things that come to market that are re-innovated and remarketed, and those things can't be studied long term until they've been around long term. And so that's sort of the goal now with sort of modern advocacy when it comes to those things, is trying to do our best to study before and to try to understand before things go to market so that they don't become a health risk to the public.
Well, Erik, tell me a little bit more about your background with Xtrema.
So my father is the founder of Xtrema Cookware. He worked about 25 years for Corning Glass in the houseware space. He was district sales manager in New York. When obviously Corning is a housewares brand that was involved in a lot of high temperature glass and ceramics for multiple different applications, and so he got very familiar with just the process of making ceramics, selling ceramics, understanding the relationships, the back end of that, understanding how it was made, and then developing and forming his own relationships within that community and within the that sort of retail space. And when he decided to sort of shift focus and create his own housewares company, Xtrema was something that was birthed from other companies and other retail ideas that ended up not panning out as much. Businesses that, as starting your own business can be a tough thing. And he had actually come to the point where he had lost one of his businesses at no fault of his own. And Xtrema was something that he'd always thought about, creating a high temperature, high quality ceramic cookware that could go on top of the stove in typical traditional shapes that were outside of the bakeware world, outside of what were typically used for ceramics, which is serveware and bakeware. What about a line of ceramic cookware that was actually non-toxic? And so using some of those relationships, he developed this and took time just to understand how we were actually going to make something that was very much different. How are we going to formulate something that was very much not a product on the American market? And in 2007, that process started, and they brought it to market. And from there, 15 years later, we're now, a sort of a one of a kind ceramics brand, in that we are developing out product lines that are typically not used for the material that we use. And now we've sort of grown in such a way that we can start to kind of really develop that and really do more than just be a part of, selling cookware for things like performance and efficiency and all the things that you love cookware for, but actually kind of transcend that and change the way that people cook, think about cooking as a part of their own health. And so I started working for Xtrema about 3 years ago, and I like to say that I've just sort of been a part of Xtrema for my whole life, because I've seen it go from an idea in my father's head to actual reality. I've seen sort of the back end of him developing that. I've gone with him over the years to where our products are made and see the process of doing that, and shaking hands with the people that are part of our network and supply chain. And so all of that stuff, has given me sort of a very unique view of the back end of small business, but also Xtrema specifically. And so when it came time for me to decide, post college, what is something that I want to be a part of? Working for the family business was one of those things that I felt like I couldn't not do. An opportunity to work with my father, and it's sort of a one of a kind and once in a lifetime opportunity that a lot of people don't get. And it's been an awesome experience. It's been a joy just to kind of continue this legacy that was started by our family, and to honestly just see what's next and where it goes. So
you're really lucky that you get the opportunity to work for a company that's improving people's lives. I think at this time, everyone wants to transition their careers in a way that can help others. I think so many more people are being drawn to that. So I'm so glad that you kind of listened to that calling and executed it, because you guys are really helping to improve people's lives and their quality of their health through your cookware.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's we talk about that all the time, like we're definitely not the people that can look the other way and just kind of work in such a way that's only focused on money and acclaim, and just being able to get more, climb up the ladder. That's part of the reason why my father wanted to be his own boss, and wanted to create something on his terms that had a purpose that was deeper than just selling more and, having more money and all of those things that are so valued in society. But at the end of the day, when your head hits the pillow, are you doing something that really impacts people? And so to be able to be a part of that, and to be able to have somebody that, is leading our company and that is our boss, that's sort of the main focus. It's just such a fun work environment to be able to know that at the end of the day, nothing really matters other than the fact that we're impacting people, and we're trying to walk alongside people and teach people the benefit of healthy cookware. So
was there something what drew your dad to create 100% pure ceramic cookware versus continuing to use the cookware that you guys had in your home? Was there something that drew him to that?
I mean, he's always been an idea guy. He's always been somebody who is able to just have sort of ideas that come to his mind. Even just growing up, like around the house, just fixing things, and he sort of has that sort of brain that is just sort of always thinking outside of the box. And there's actually a story, because obviously like Corel and some of those Corning brands, they were all white ceramics. And he had always thought of creating something that was black, because it was sort of out of the box, and not a lot of people were doing it, and it shows wear in a different way. And kind of led him to start thinking about, like, what if we came out with a line that was black, and realizing, in that ceramics world, what it takes to create something like that, what the market would be for something like that. But obviously, to do that in a larger company is much harder than just like, hey, I have an idea, let's implement it. So I think that sort of led him down the path of sort of understanding where cookware was at. And then obviously at the time there was some controversy that was surrounding Teflon and PFOA, and just sort of thinking, like, what are the alternatives, and what are pieces of cookware that have been around for a while, and how can we innovate that? And obviously he had connections and experience in the glass and ceramic world, and we know that glass is not the best looking of cookware, but it certainly has non-toxic qualities. It just is not something that maybe you're going to use as serveware, or when you're talking about aesthetic or versatility in that way. Seeing what you can cook, see through cookware is not the most appealing. And so kind of had his brain going, like, what if something was as non-toxic as sort of a glass? that also looked amazing
Yeah.
and had that sort of quality of like, it is a little bit heavier and other stuff that people love about, enamel cast iron and things like that, but was actually a handmade, handcrafted product from people that have been doing this for 10,000, 20,000 years. And that sort of led him to just explore, because he was already connecting with these people like, hey, can we make a product like this? And really kind of pushing the people who had boots on the ground and were making high quality ceramics to innovate and create a product like this. And then after it felt like they had it, just continuing to innovate and continuing to improve and continue to make different shapes and different sizes, and really focusing on, for the first time, what he felt like cookware as a health product,
Yeah.
cookware as a part of your life. Whereas so many other products at that time, that was kind of the beginning of like the green boom, where everything was just green and everything was sustainable. And a lot of that language that we don't use anymore because it's considered greenwashing. Like, why wasn't cookware a part of that equation? And I think all of those different factors sort of led him to create something from an industry he was already familiar with, which is sort of probably wouldn't have been able to happen if he didn't have some of those connections and the time that he had just even getting familiar with that space in his prior work.
Yeah, now you have me thinking about what's happening to all the Teflon pans that people have thrown out, and where are those sitting today? And versus taking an old ceramic pot or pan, and you can kind of imagine that sitting, in a trash area, breaking down a lot faster than those scuffed Teflon metal pans, and what that's going to be leaching into the ground, and then groundwater, and then God knows what else.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the conversations that needs to be had just in general around the modern cookware marketplace is just, what is the opportunity cost? We talk about that in a lot of different areas. What is the opportunity cost of owning some of these nonstick and pseudo ceramic pans? In the short term, yeah, maybe it's less cleanup. Maybe it's a nonstick surface that lasts for typically 6 months to 2 years. But when you talk about owning something for like cookware, you should own your cookware for 20 plus years. Cookware should be more of a lifetime purchase, a long-term purchase. Same way that, when a chef goes to purchase good knives, they're not thinking they're going to replace those knives in 6 months to 2 years. They're going to it's going to be maybe higher ticket, but when you look at that over the course of 20 years and you say, what's 25 divided by, $150, and you look like, oh, this is less than, this is like $5 to $10 a year for something that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. Some of these newer pans, they're non-stick, is going to last 6 months to 2 years, and they're $130.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about, if you use them properly and you use them correctly, which means as soon as they start to scratch and to chip and to flake, you're throwing them out. You're talking about $130 every 2 years, and you're throwing out cookware at a rate of 7 to 10 times more than your typical materials. I mean, just from a sustainability standpoint, of just a waste standpoint, that's hard to get behind, as an industry that's continuing to grow. Like, how much cookware are we throwing out? And a lot of this stuff, we don't really know what's really in it, because it's kind of forced to be changed after PFOA was banned and after the negative public sentiment about PTFE. But I almost view that as secondary, because I think that, is there a possibility that it's like not as bad as we think it is? I mean, I guess maybe. I mean, only time and science will tell. But just from a sustainability standpoint of, do you want to throw out your cookware every year or every 2 years? Like, I think the answer generally is no.
Yes.
And if you're purchasing something, especially that's not like $19.99 or $9.99, and you're starting to get in the $100 range, that should last you for a while, if not the rest of your life. And so, what ceramic offers you, obviously, it doesn't have some of the durability that metal does, as far as like if you drop it from, shoulder length, like it is ceramic, it is going to break. But that durability, as far as if you take care of it, it's going to last, is very important to us, because I think seeing ceramic, the modern sort of sentiment around like disposable cookware, just can't be sustained in the long term. The more popular it gets, how much cookware are we disposing of every year that is just unnecessary? If maybe double or tripled your purchase, but then you're not going to be purchasing ever again. And so I think that's a factor that's not really talked about in the cookware space, that is equally as important as all the non-toxic talk that is, I think, more popular and more prominent.
So what is ceramic cookware for people to get a better understanding?
So typically with ceramic, there are three types of categories that are important to understand. When you're talking about ceramics, when you're talking about pottery, there's earthenware, there's stoneware, and there's porcelain. Typically, people are very familiar with stoneware and porcelain.
Mm-hmm.
Porcelain typically used for serveware, fine china, stuff that you're not using in your china closet that's decorative, even like sinks and toilets. These types of ceramics are very extremely high fired, about 2100 to 2600 degrees Fahrenheit, and are almost 100% non-porous. Right, so they form almost like a really shiny glass-like, hard, durable surface. But because of the fact that it's almost 100% non-porous, when you're talking about putting it on an open flame, it doesn't have that little bit of porosity that allows it to expand and contract enough to not just completely break or shatter.
Yeah.
That's why typically stoneware, you're using it as bakeware, right? You're using it in a more even setting. Whereas when you're putting a direct flame on something, it's a little bit, it's obviously more direct, but it's not as even of a heat when you're talking about putting something in the oven that's getting heated on all sides at the same time. So, and then there's earthenware, which is typically the most brittle, right? It's the lowest fire, between 1,000 and 1,400 degrees. Stoneware is about 2,100 degrees. Porcelain's 2,100 to 2,600 degrees. Earthenware is like your more brittle, porous, less durable. Think of, terracotta, some of those like more brittle, stuff that you would put plants in, or you might have seen decorative earthenware that's hand painted, but this isn't something that you're looking to really cook with, because typically this stuff is unglazed. So it's going to, obviously leach a lot into your cookware, into your food. But it's also very brittle. So it's not something that you would use on top of the stove. So there are some ceramics, right? Especially those that are not food use, that if you use for food use can be dangerous. And also ceramics that are used for clay pot cooking, that are more low fired earthenware, right? You have to be careful and make sure that those companies are doing the tests and showing that these are actually non-leaching, because there isn't a glass-like surface that's formed on top of them because of how low they're fired, but also because they're unglazed. And so that's very important to understand, the food applications, but also the difference between decorative pottery and pottery that you should be storing even liquids or solids in, or going the extra step and applying heat to. So our ceramic cookware, right, where we say solid ceramic, all ceramic, 100% ceramic, it means that from top to bottom, it is a solid piece of ceramic. It is not a coating. It is not something that is applied on top of metal. It is 100% ceramic, which means that if you cut it open, you would see the white center, which is our clay mixture, that it turns that color when it is baked for 20 plus hours at over 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. So our cookware would probably fall somewhere between stoneware and porcelain in how long and how high it's fired, but it's also glazed with a ceramic glaze that allows it to be non-scratch, right? Allows it to be waterproof in the sense that like you're not going to put liquid in it, it's going to fall through the bottom. And it allows it to be like glass-like surface that you could actually cook food on, and will hold up over the long term. So the most common misconception is that ceramic is something that is applied to an already existing base. Whereas when you look at stoneware, serveware, pottery, it is actually one solid piece that is formed from similar materials. And so when you talk about a ceramic glaze, you're talking about ceramic bonded to ceramic, not ceramic bonded to metal, which is a very different story.
Yeah.
And so you'll notice if you ever pick up our cookware, use our cookware, it's about 30% heavier than metal cookware, but about 30 to 40% lighter than cast iron. And that's similar with, larger serving plates that will have a similar weight to them. But it does mean that has different cooking properties as well. But the most important thing to understand about Xtrema cookware is that it is 100% solid ceramic cookware. And it is made of ceramic materials, sand, clay, water, various different oxides. It's not made with traditional elemental metal materials or synthetic coatings or nonstick surfaces.
Yeah, that's what I love about it is it's pure and clean. When I think about and I love learning and studying about traditional ways of cooking outside with fire or in the earth. This is the type of equipment I want my food on. You see a lot of people cooking outside and they wrap their food in aluminum foil or they cook on a cast iron skillet, and that's getting into their food. I find it fascinating when you can find products like yours that are 100% pure ceramic made with clay and sand, because that's not going to react to your food, and it's going to complement the earth and earth elements that you're working with in a better way, just like gas or fire. So I'm really excited for people to kind of understand that when you purchase your pots and pans, you can't necessarily see through it, but there's layers of different types of metals. Nothing is 100% what you see on the outside, except for maybe your products.
Right. And when you're talking about just the process of making it, right, our cookware is made over a 22-day process, and it's handcrafted, which means that it'll go into casting molds that are poured and shaped from clay, right, and then it'll go through drying. It'll go through different shaping, hand shaping, and then for some pieces on the tops of lids, and especially for our traditions line of skillets, the two-piece handles, like in our 10-inch skillet, right, that has to be applied by hand, because it can't be formed in a once you get over a certain size. It's hard to do a one-piece mold. So this is a process, which is also goes into why it is a higher ticket purchase. It's something that takes time. It's not something that really anybody can just do or learn to do. If you talk to any ceramicist or potter, there's a lot of variables that go into making a successful piece of pottery. There's a lot of expertise that has to go into play to actually make something that's going to last and be used over the long term. And so that's part of when you purchase a piece of Xtrema cookware. Every piece of cookware, we try to maintain that level of quality across it all. But in a sense, every piece is unique because it's touched with human hands. It's brought through um, a process that's not an assembly line. That's made with robotics or made with different things that are just automated. So, and then at the end, it's actually baked. It's fired in a kiln, and it's all those materials make something that is new, and that are all those materials become bonded together and create something that is durable and that can be used and that can last. And so even just seeing that process, it's like, it's unbelievable because a lot of modern cookware is just, it's really separated from the human touch in that, and a lot of our modern culture is, even our modern cooking practices, are how many people actually grow their own food. It feels like when you're making ceramics, you're getting back to some of the roots of civilization, that we're like, I am making my own cookware, which is so cool because, like,
It really is.
obviously the processes have changed, right? And I'm not saying go out and get some clay and form it and make your own cookware, but even just to know that the process of doing that requires the human touch in order to do it,
Yeah.
is so cool to see and to be a part of.
It really is. Thank you so much for sharing that background, because I think when we know where our products come from, we take greater care of it in our home, and we have a greater appreciation for it. And we maybe move a little slower with it, or we just carry much more respect for it because we know what it took in order to get into our home. So thank you so much for sharing that. I know that'll even change the way I use your products, even though I thought I knew a lot about it already. That's really nice to hear that it's really worked on by individuals.
Yeah, and I think that's true for a lot of things. I remember when, I was getting into like playing the guitar, and there's this conversation you have with yourself. It's like, should I buy a cheap one? And, maybe because I might not like it, or do I buy something that is better, that sounds better, that's made better, that's handcrafted, that's made from solid woods, that is going to make me want to play and make me want to take care of it. And it's amazing what happens when your psychology, even when you buy something that is more expensive, uh, your psychology kind of shifts to say, I want to take care of this. I want to, not baby it, but I want to care for this. And, it's interesting because a lot of people ask us about that. Like, what are your return rates for your cookware? And it must be so high because it's something that can be broken with like washing and cleaning. And I mean, they're shockingly low. And frankly, a lot of the returns that we get are people that think that we're ceramic coated metal cookware, and they get it and they're like, oh, this is like 100% solid ceramic. Like, and this is not like your typical nonstick product. And they're like, I, that's not what I was expecting. And like, we don't really get a lot of like breakage return and thermal crack returns. And I think part of that is because when people purchase, they want to take care of it. And so they do. And even for us, I mean, I've been using it for 15 years, so we always joke about that. But, the amount of breakage that we've had over 15 years, like we're still using most of our original pieces, if not all of them in some cases. And it's like, it's just something that happens when you know that this is like an important thing and it's an investment. You just take care of it. So it's cool that you mentioned that, because I think it is true, and it shows in the numbers of some of the back end of our business.
And quality over quantity is so important, and I recently moved. And so I'm really taking my time to upgrade everything in my kitchen and choose the new things coming into my home, because I don't need to fill it with stuff. I just need to fill it with quality things that I need. And I take that into great consideration in my kitchen, which is, where I live. It's my office. It's what helps me support my clients. And so every new item that I bring in, I've thought about for a very long time. And I don't just buy a new pair of kitchen scissors. I really think about how I'm going to use these kitchen scissors. I want them to last me forever. I never assume that I'm going to replace an item in a year or two. So I move a little slower with all the equipment that I bring into my home because I really want to love and enjoy the piece, and I want the piece to last a long time. And
Absolutely.
I'm hoping more people start to think about that, not just with stuff, but with kitchen equipment, with the food that they bring in, with spices, with sea salt, that it's really about quality, not big bulk quantity.
Well, and familiarity, I know, especially for you as a chef, familiarity with your equipment is so essential. And so when you talk about having something for a while, the longer you have that and you're used to cooking with that or using those materials or using those knives or using those scissors, the more proficient you'll become as a chef or even as a home cook. It becomes easier. And so I think when you're talking about shifting from nonstick cookware or other materials to ceramic, yes, like of course there's going to be a learning curve. There definitely is. You're using lower heat. It's retaining heat longer in different ways. And so how you change heats is going to be different. How you care for it, changing temperature, like all of this stuff. But what people, the feedback that people give us after a month is like, and then after a year and 2 years, and customers that have literally purchased our cookware in 2007 still have it. Like, it's like, it's second nature now because they're so familiar with it that they don't even have to think about anything anymore. And the longer you use it, the more that goes away, and you can just kind of wake up and go and cook and use your utensils and your products and never think about it. And I think that it's something that we need to think about more as we just purchase in general, because I think sometimes we change so fast that we don't even get that opportunity to see the benefits and the long-term benefits of owning a product for a while that you get used to. It's a lot of the focus is just about the short-term benefits and how much better can I get, this year as opposed to last year, whereas sometimes you would get that better if you just kept the product that you were using.
Yeah, I always say it takes 3 times to perfect a recipe. So the first time you make it is okay. Second time you make it, you're much more comfortable and confident. And the third time you make it, you can really kind of make it yours. And the little things that you can adjust. And also it comes out just more elegant, more beautiful. So I feel like that with any new equipment that you're using, if you just make the same thing on it 3 times, by the third time, you'll be really comfortable with it. And you won't have the issues maybe you had the first time, where something overcooked, something stuck to the pan, whatever it may be, you kind of work out those kinks by the third time.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Yeah. So just for people that aren't familiar with the difference between a ceramic coated pan or a green pan versus 100% ceramic. Can we just explain that real quick? I think if people saw your product, they'd get it real fast. They'll see Absolutely. That your handle is solid ceramic, and green pans and ceramic coated pans have metal handles and are basically metal with just a little ceramic coating on top. Is that right? Right.
So after PTFE, Teflon, polytetrafluoroethylene, right? Mm-hmm. The appeal to that was that it's a hydrophobic polymer, right? Which means that it'll bead water and it has extremely low surface tension. The coefficient of friction for PTFE is like one of the lowest. So when you talk about nonstick surfaces that are durable, PTFE was something that, when you compare it to modern ceramic coatings, was about 8 to 10 times as durable. And part of the reason was because of some of the things that were added into it, PFOA, which also decreased surface tension. It's another fluorocarbon. And over time, right? This was used in multiple different applications outside of the cookware. Um, but after sort of the lid got busted on that, and it realized that some of the workers and some of the surrounding areas had higher levels, and there was a study that in 1999 that showed that like almost everybody had PTFE in their bloodstream, and um, these levels were raised, and they did more cancer studies. Like there was this scramble to try to say like, well, we like nonstick, but how can we make it more marketable post what was sort of like a bombshell, and
Yeah.
how can we change it so that it is in some way like more non-toxic. And a lot of the initial changes, right, they're kind of like the changes that we see in other industries where it's like one ingredient is banned and then you pivot to an ingredient that's similar but just doesn't have the stigma because it's a little different in these ways. And that's what you see with Generation X, which was a replacement of PFOA that was similar things were happening, right? They dumped a lot of it into water systems in North Carolina, and the surrounding communities were affected. And similar studies being done that show that it has similar effects of PFOA. And so a lot of this stuff, it's just kind of like a something that keeps going because nobody wants to say let's just stop. Maybe nonstick is not a good idea. Like
Yeah.
maybe we were never supposed to do that. Instead, it's like, well, that can't be an option because of money and other interests. So let's come up with another modification. And a lot of times these modifications, as they play out, as you're seeing, things like perfluoroalkyl substances, PFAs, they are everywhere. They're forever chemicals. And we're seeing them from, in animals in the Arctic to people all across the world, right? These are babies are growing up and they have microplastics and PFAs in their bloodstreams, in placenta. Like this stuff is everywhere. And so going forward, it's understanding like maybe we can't reverse what we've done in the past, but we certainly can make steps to not add to it. But I think that there's still this sentiment of like, well, we need to try to make it the best that it can be. And ceramic was kind of birthed out of that because ceramic is sort of a very friendly term.
Yeah. It is.
It's something that everybody uses in their daily life when it comes to serveware and things in their house, mugs, and it's kind of viewed as like a neutral, like, oh, ceramic. But what people don't realize is that it's not bonded to another ceramic, and so it's still a coating. It's not applied the way that the glaze on our cookware is applied. It's fired at 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, right? These coatings on a nonstick pan are put on at low temperatures, which means, guess what? If you heat it up at normal temperatures on your stove, it'll off gas and it'll break down. And it's why you can't put them in the oven. And there's all these limitations when you talk about our cookware with ceramic. You could put it in the oven, you could put it on the grill, you can store things in it in the fridge, and that's because of the way that it's crafted, because it's been fired at high temperatures, so it's not going to off gas at temperatures that are like 3 to 4 times lower on your stove. And so as you start to play this out, you start to realize that this is not going to be something that lasts. And the benefit of nonstick, which is easy cleaning and easy cooking, is only going to last for a short amount of time, because a lot of these new ones, they're 8 times as less durable than PTFE, meaning in 15% of the time they're going to wear off, which is typically anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And it's going to become like every other pan that you might have hated that's stuck. You're going to have to spend this money and this time on a pan that's ceramic coated, that is going to last less, be less durable, last far fewer time. And then all of the benefits are going to go away within a year to 2 years. And so on top of that, right, that's not even getting to like we don't really know what's in these materials, like what's in these coatings, like, and that will play out over probably the next 20 years. And it's like, do you want to be the test subject that is a part of using that cookware and then realizing it down the road? Or do we want to learn from our not too recent history and say, there's probably things that are being used that we really haven't fully tested and we really don't know, that are trade secrets now, but are going to be harmful to people down the road. And then on top of that, typically most of these products are just put on top of aluminum, which is a great conductor of heat. But once that aluminum is exposed, that also now can leach into your cookware. And studies on aluminum are being played out and have been played out, but there's a lot of things that are linking aluminum toxicity to a lot of different neurological problems and all sorts of things. So I think being aware of history is important, but also understanding what it is and what it's not. You're talking about basically an aluminum product that has a 1% ceramic sort of coating. And they can call it that because they use some sort of ceramic materials, but it's not a ceramic in the way that it's been understood for 10, 20,000 years, which is handcrafted, hand molded, high fired. It's just a completely different animal when you're talking about versatility and actually long-term usage on top of the stove. It's not something that's going to crumble and fade away and break down like these modern ceramic coatings.
Well, I think the moral is you either learn to cook without nonstick cookware now, or you learn later, but you're going to have to learn to cook without nonstick because your health is going to require it at some time. Like you're going to get there. Everyone on this planet is going to get there at some time where they are health-wise is not where they used to be. And in order to get back to feeling energized and vibrant, they're going to have to remove toxins from their life. And one of the best ways that you can do that is through your cookware. So you figure it out now or you figure it out later, but at some time you're going to have to make a shift.
Yeah, it's ceramic, 100% ceramic cookware is like a really honest friend. They're going to tell you when you make a mistake and they're going to push you to become a better cook. And the longer you cook with a material like ceramic, the more you'll be able to understand, the process of actually cooking your food. And it's one of the only like materials that actually completes that process, which is also why, part of the reason why my father loved the prospect of making ceramic, 100% ceramic cookware is because ceramic, you can legitimately cook and then bring it to the table.
Yes.
And it's going to have properties that make that advantageous, meaning the thermal properties that hold heat far better than metal. But it's not going to look like, a piece of a metal or aluminum cookware that's, just sitting on your table. We have crafted pieces like our Versa line that have shorter handles so that whether you're cooking and baking in it, you take it right to the table and it looks good. It's actually keeping your food warm, and it has a lid so it can, even do that even better. But and then after that, you don't have to take it out and put it into another, a storage container. You can just put that into your fridge, or, you can, on all aspects of cooking, what you want to do, you're just using the same vessel, which allows you to appreciate that vessel more. It allows you to understand that more. And it engages all parts of the cooking experience, the cooking, the eating, the sitting down and talking around the table. It's a part of all that, when typically, the farther removed you get from that with like nonstick cookware, it's just like you use it and you put it in the, you put it in the sink, and then you go to the table and you're using different things that look nicer. And so you're not interacting it with it's only a single use product, in that you're not using it for other aspects of the actual meal service. And I think we've been doing that for the last 15 years. And it's like, when you talk about even just minimalism in purchasing, like we don't really use like other stoneware to serve on. Like, we're just serving it in Xtrema. We just bring it to the table and we serve it out of that. So it's eliminating another thing that maybe you need if you have a smaller house or a smaller kitchen, like that you don't need to purchase something else, because you just have that and you serve it out of that, and that's it. So
yeah, you just buy one piece at a time, or two pieces at a time, or three pieces at a time, and you get comfortable and you figure out how to use them and how to incorporate them into your life, and make adjustments, and then you'll learn what else you need in order to make cooking more fun and serving more fun and just life more easy, I think.
Absolutely.
So just to wrap up our call, where can people learn more about Xtrema ceramic cookware?
So one of the best places to learn about us is our website, xtrema.com, xtrema.com. And we have a couple of pages on there, particularly our Why Ceramic page, that sort of highlights the history, but also the use case and the uniqueness of our products, 100% ceramic cookware, and just kind of explains in a more detailed way what I've been talking about today, and the differences between that and modern ceramic cookware, which is actually not ceramic cookware at all. It's just metal cookware with a thin pseudo ceramic coating. And we actually have a couple articles on our blog as well that are great, just highlighting the difference between ceramic and ceramic coated. Why are some of these nonstick coatings things that you should avoid? What's the difference between ceramic and other ceramics? Like we were talking about before, we're not recommending you go out and buy, ceramics that are meant for, decorative use and using them for food use, right? Or hand making ceramics from a local potter that were really not meant to be used on top of the stove. And so it's understanding, what is the use of your typical ceramics. Ceramics that use serveware are not going to be ceramics that you use on top of the stove or for cooking and for storing. So all of those things kind of lead to a greater understanding of ceramics in general, and also the rich history that exists, which has been used as a material for 10,000 plus years. So when you're talking about history and, historical success of a material, and a material that has touched all different cultures and time periods, ceramic is one of the most widely used, widely studied, widely understood materials. It's not something that's been around, for 10, 15 years or a couple years, like a lot of the other stuff that dominates the cookware market. So.
Absolutely. Well, Erik, you've been such a wealth of knowledge. This has been so fantastic to learn more about your cookware that I've been using for years. And I'm in the phase right now where I'm collecting more pieces. So this has been really, really helpful for me, and I think for everyone listening. One thing I love to do is just ask my guests at the end of the podcast if they can leave our listeners with, even just one tip, one healthy tip that they can incorporate into their life. If there is something that you could share that could support and benefit them.
I think one of the most important things, one of the most important things for me as we've gone along this sort of less toxic journey is just that word itself. This is about less. It's not about 100% completely eliminating everything, because we will never be able to do that. We live in a world around us that things are outside of our control, in the sense of things that we're breathing in, things that we're drinking, things that we're interacting with. And so I think the most important thing that I've learned is to focus on that word less, that this is a journey to expose yourself to less things that could do potential harm, and not to be 100% perfect. Because a lot of times for me, I know, being sort of the perfectionist that I can be, the stress that's created from trying to be 100% something it can be more detrimental than actually the products that you're trying to avoid long term. And so start simple, use resources like like Whitney, to help you start on the most simple and easy things that you can do first, and then go from there. But the most important thing is to not be stressed along the journey, because this should be something that's beneficial and fun. And long term, for it to be that, it has to be something that is free from stress, and something that is going to be fun for you, for your family, for your friends. That when they see you doing this, they're going to want to join you, because you're genuinely you're genuinely happy about it, and not stressed about it. But also just understanding where you get your information as well. And like I said before, with influencers, we live in a time where people are actually able to walk you along and give you a peek into their life. And some really expert level people that exist on social media, that are doctors, that are practitioners, that are chefs, that are doing this, that you can learn from their experience and not have to go and find it all yourself, because that's very overwhelming, and a lot of us don't have the time to even start down that road. So use your resources and the people around you to kind of pursue that life of less toxicity.
I love that tip. And discernment is definitely key in this time. And, it's very much why I do what I do. I don't expect everyone to drop their life and go to a health supportive culinary school for 8 to 9 months and spend $50,000 to get the education that I got, because I was wanting to learn how to make my life healthier and better. And that's why I do what I do. I try to share the information that I gained from all the chefs that I work with and all the registered dietitians I work with, so people can continue with their life and just benefit with the information that they deserve to already have, to feel good and enjoy their well-being. So thank you so much for your time today and all the information that you shared. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to be on.
Yeah, my pleasure. And hopefully we can have you back in the future.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Thank you, Erik. Have a good one.
All right. You too as well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.